What happens when a hero stops fighting monsters and starts fighting for his story? Picture this, a world of swords and sorcery, of haunted men and desperate kings, and at its center, one man, Henry Cavill, who didn't just play the hero, he believed in him. Then suddenly, he walked away. The announcements came, the fans gasped, the swords were laid down. But this wasn't the end of the battle. It was the beginning of a different war, not one of monsters, but of meaning, control, and identity. Today, we dive into what really happened when Cavill left The Witcher, why it mattered, and how the story changed underneath everyone's feet. From the moment Henry stepped into the haunting green screen of the continent, he didn't simply portray Geralt of Rivia, he inhabited him. He was a fan, a gamer, someone who read the original books by Andrzej Sapkowski, played the games, and knew the lore. When the series premiered in December 2019, it felt like everything aligned. The culture was ready for fantasy, cracked wide open, and audiences responded. But even as the acclaim poured in, Henry quietly asked bigger questions. What does Geralt feel when the camera cuts away? Can the swordsman's silence carry the weight of his world? He sent notes to the writers, dug into the source material, and insisted on authenticity. Behind the scenes, however, a different kind of tension started to whisper: reality TV budgets, streaming quotas, global audiences. All of that pushed on a story built for a book-obsessed niche. In that pressure cooker, the hero stood firm, but something else was dislodging. And the first cracks appeared sooner than anyone expected. By season 3, the fan love hadn't disappeared, but the dynamic was shifting. Sources suggest Henry felt the version of Geralt being written no longer aligned with the man he had vowed to embody. He reportedly wanted Geralt's interior life to shine, not just the monster hunts, but the cost of each swing of the blade. At the same time, the show's creators were facing the alchemy of balancing die-hard fans with mainstream viewers. As one insider put it, "We need writers who love the world, but aren't afraid to question it." In October 2022, the announcement arrived. Henry Cavill would not be returning for season 4. He said the words publicly, "I will be laying down my medallion and my swords for season 4, but offered little else." Fans braced. The cast and crew processed shock, loss, and uncertainty no one had rehearsed. Because when your hero steps away, what remains is both a world and a question. Who will lead it now? But stepping into that void opened the gates. For something the fans never saw coming, into the silence stepped Liam Hemsworth, an actor with his own legacy and a fan of the games and books lurking beneath the casting headlines. The recast wasn't just a swap of faces, it was a pivot. The showrunner revealed the change had been in motion for a while, and that the writers were thinking about how to integrate it into the story, not simply pretend it didn't happen. Liam admitted he was pretty reluctant, saying this: "Stepping into an established series is like joining high school halfway through, and everyone else already knows each other. But," he said, "I'm a massive fan, and I thought I could bring something new." The show took note. Geralt would carry a new scar. His voice would shift, his tone softened just enough to announce, "This is the same man you once knew, but changed." The world watched. Some cheered the fresh chapter, others balked at loyalty betrayed. Either way, the change was seminal. And as the fans divided, a story deeper than casting was unfolding. When you replace a central figure, the ripples go far beyond the camera. The series still had monsters to slay, kingdoms to liberate, but the audience's emotional stake had shifted. The numbers revealed it. The bond built with a certain face, a certain actor, was part of the architecture of fandom. Online, hashtags emerged, Reddit threads reeled. One contributor put it this way: "There has been no actual reason given. Anyone telling you they know for certain is completely speculating." Castmates felt it too. Anya Kalotra, who plays Yennefer, admitted she cried when the news broke. "We were so bonded, and to lose such an important member of the team, it hurts." The industry took note. Star investment matters more in streaming than ever. You don't just hire a face, you hire the audience's trust. And when that trust is shaken, viewers feel it in the story, the tone, the moment. The backlash was loud. The viewership was down. It's the best material for South Park to make fun of. And just when you feel like Netflix might quietly sweep the mess under the rug, South Park shows up with a flamethrower. Imagine this, in the near future. They drop one of their most brutal episodes yet, a full-on roast called The Glitcher Season Snore. It features a clueless cardboard cutout of Liam Hemsworth, nicknamed Lame Hemsworth, aimlessly wandering through scenes, mumbling, "Wait, am I Geralt or Thor?" Writers in the episode are portrayed as unpaid interns, frantically Googling plot points and feeding them into ChatGPT to finish scenes. Every bad idea gets greenlit by Netflix execs, shown here as toddlers in business suits, who scream, "The algorithm likes it." while slamming buttons labeled reboot, spin-off, and more abs. The satire is ruthless. Every time a fan complains, a robot named Lore Be Gone zaps them with a laser and shouts, "Lore doesn't trend." Meanwhile, Cartman becomes an obsessive Witcher fan who has a total meltdown when Geralt breaks into a TikTok dance mid-fight. "They turned him into a cringe lord," he screams. It all climaxes with a floating, glowing ghost of Henry Cavill hovering over Netflix HQ, whispering, "You brought this on yourselves," as the building explodes in a fireball made of bad writing and lost subscribers. Then the screen cuts to black, only to be interrupted by yet another spin-off teaser. It's pure South Park, absurd, sharp, and scarily on point. And for fans, it is a moment of sweet revenge, laughter, and truth, all rolled into one. Then behind the scenes, something even subtler began to surface. Speculation swirled. Somewhere between actor, showrunner, writer, global platform, tension lived. Was it about creative differences, scheduling, ambition? The official line held that Henry had other projects, and so the studio chose not to hold him to a contract. But rumors persisted. Henry was deeply invested in the lore, pushing for Geralt's voice, for emotional interiority, for authenticity. In 2021, the showrunner admitted Henry had sent notes about Geralt's dialogue. Could he say more? When you read the books, you spend a lot of time in Geralt's head. On the other side, the show's strategy, balancing spectacle and adaptation, drew from a mass audience blueprint. At times, insiders claim the writer's room diverged from purist fans. Henry's vision met broader demands. Whether that was the trigger or not, the battle lines were there. Actors' passion versus production's scale. Lore, fidelity versus streaming formula. Still, no public blow-up. But the tension? Real. The hero had revolted quietly. Because when the hero leaves, the story doesn't just continue. It has to redefine itself. An established hero exiting isn't just a casting problem, it's a narrative earthquake. The scripts, the tone, the expectations all shift. The hero who carried the identity now hands off the mantle, and the world watches to see whether that mantle glows or goes dark. With Geralt's recast, the series tried to recalibrate. New look, scar, new energy. But the key question remained. Was this still the story the fans came for? When trust in the lead actor changes, trust in the story follows. The viewers who signed up for a certain Geralt now met a different Geralt. It's like your favorite restaurant changing the chef, but keeping the name. The dishes may look familiar, but something tastes different. For streaming giants like Netflix, this means the cost isn't just behind the scenes. It's visible in the dashboard. And in this case, the viewer told the story. They paused, they commented, they waited. Because when the protagonist you trusted leaves, you wonder, do I trust the narrative anymore too? Yet, even as the series marched on, the former Geralt's next move revealed what his departure really meant. Henry didn't vanish into the night. His journey pivoted, not ended. Soon after leaving, he announced that he would star and produce a long-term passion project, an adaptation of Warhammer 40,000, a universe he'd loved as a kid. The optics matter. A hero who leaves on his own terms becomes a symbol. Fans began to see Henry's exit not as defeat, but as integrity, someone who refused to lose himself in someone else's story. Others viewed it as risk or career calculus. Either way, it became part of the narrative. He started representing not just Geralt, but the idea that your path matters as much as your platform. In the background, the show faced its next chapter. The recast was in motion. The legacy actor became a testament. The fans responded not just to a story on screen, but to the story of the man off it. One question lingered. Which legacy will last longer? The hero or the myth he leaves behind? As the dust settled, the real question emerged. What comes next when legacy meets reinvention? With season 4 and 5 mapped out, The Witcher enters an unfamiliar terrain. The lead actor is new. The story must deliver both continuity and novelty, and the audience watches with fresh eyes. Will the new Geralt match what the old one achieved, or carve his own path? Context. The showrunner said early on they didn't want to pull one over on the audience. Meanwhile, Henry, once our monster hunter, now becomes part of the meta story. Who controls the story behind the story? Viewers now ask, do I watch for the character, the actor, or the integrity behind both? The stakes feel higher, not just in sword fights, but in narrative trust. In effect, this is a transition of power, not just on screen, but off at the mantle passes. The fans may keep arguing the story continues, But what changes is our lens. The hero didn't only slay monsters. He pointed the camera back at how those monsters are created. Here's the bottom line. When a hero chooses to walk away, you don't just get a new face. You get a moment of reckoning. Henry Cavill's departure from The Witcher wasn't simply end of contract or schedule conflict. It signaled a deeper shift in storytelling, fandom, and streaming culture. It asked a question: when you love a story, who owns it? For the fans, the hero, the studio, what happened to Geralt of Rivia became less about the Witcher himself and more about the Witcher within each of us, the one who fights, the one who leaves, the one who passes the torch. Because in the end, the story doesn't end when the swords are laid down, it evolves. So ask yourself, when the hero you believed in lays down his sword, are you following the hero or following the truth behind the hero's journey?